It was a chilly Thursday morning, the kind where the fog blankets the world like a secret. I remember the way my wife looked at me that day, her eyes heavy with something she wasn't saying. She'd been distant lately, quieter than usual, but I chalked it up to the stress of work and parenting. We'd been together 12 years. I thought I knew everything about her. That was my first mistake. I was heading out for a short trip, just a weekend camping retreat to clear my head. My doctor had warned me to keep my blood pressure in check, and I figured nature and silence might do what prescriptions couldn't. I kissed my wife on the forehead as I picked up my bag. That's when she pulled me back. She leaned in close, her voice barely audible. "Don't die." At first, I laughed. I thought it was just a weird way of saying, "Stay safe." But then I looked at her face. She wasn't joking. Her lips trembled, and her eyes darted toward the kitchen window like someone might be listening. That unease settled into my bones. I should have canceled the trip then and there. I didn't. That was my second mistake. The campsite was about 3 hours away, tucked deep into a forest reserve. My phone signal disappeared 20 minutes after. I arrived, I didn't mind, I wanted to unplug, but I couldn't shake her words. Don't die. The first night was peaceful. I made a fire, grilled some chicken, and listened to the woods speak their nighttime language. It was the second night that everything changed. I heard rustling outside my tent around 1 a.m., heavier than a raccoon or fox. I peeked through the eye-hour zipper and saw a man standing near the fire pit, just standing there, watching, not moving. I called out, but he didn't respond. That's when he took a step toward me. I zipped up the tent and grabbed the small hatchet I kept for chopping wood. My heart pounded so loudly I thought he could hear it. The man circled the tent, slow and deliberate, before walking off into the woods. I stayed awake until morning, clutching that hatchet, every snap of a twig sending a jolt down my spine. When daylight came, I packed up and left. I didn't care if it meant cutting the trip short. Something was wrong, but my car wouldn't start. The battery was dead. I hadn't left the lights on. Everything had been off. I tried again and again, but nothing. I was stranded. I walked for hours trying to reach the nearest ranger station, but the forest seemed endless. That's when I saw the man again, far down the trail, just standing there. This time I ran. Branches whipped my face, thorns tore at my jeans, but I didn't stop. Eventually, I found a logging road and followed it until I stumbled across a passing truck. I flagged it down, breathless and bleeding. The driver took one look at me and didn't ask a single question. He drove me all the way back to the city. I went straight home. When I opened the door, my wife looked like she'd seen a ghost. Then she burst into tears. "I didn't know if you'd come back," she whispered. That's when everything unraveled. She told me she'd received an anonymous letter a few days before I left. It said I was being watched, that someone from her past, a man she thought was long gone, had resurfaced. A stalker from college. She never told me about him before. He'd been obsessed with her, violent, manipulative. He'd been arrested years ago but released recently. The letter said he knew where I was going. She didn't want to believe it. She didn't want to frighten me. But when I told her what happened at the campsite, she collapsed into a chair. "He found you," she whispered. "He's playing with us." We called the police. They confirmed the man had indeed been released. Worse, they found evidence he'd stolen an old camper van 2 weeks earlier, the same kind that had been spotted near the campsite the day I arrived. For weeks, we lived in fear. Security systems, police patrols, new locks, new routines. Every time I stepped outside, I felt his presence. Then, 2 months later, he was caught. He'd broken into another home, not far from ours, and left behind photos of me, of our house, of my wife sleeping. Some were taken through our bedroom window. When the police arrested him, he was carrying rope, a knife, and a taser. They said if I'd stayed one more night in those woods, I might not have made it out. Now, every morning, I wake up grateful. I kiss my wife a little longer. I double-check the locks. And when I look into her eyes, I remember that whisper, soft and trembling. Don't die. She knew. Somehow she knew. And because of that, I lived.